We are back with the fourth edition of the Ignite Your Video Lifestyle Success Series. I am your host, Monique Johnson, streaming in live from Atlanta, Georgia. In fact, the guest that we have on today, he's streaming in from Atlanta as well. So Atlanta is in the house and representing for today. But before we bring up our special guest, first things first, what is Ignite Your Video Lifestyle Success Series? Well, this success series is the whole intention of this is to bring on what I call business veterans, people who've been in business literally for over 2 years, more than 3 years, even, let's just say 5 or more, who are successful, who've been doing the entrepreneurial thing. It's not been a trend, it's their way of life. And they've been very successful either with building multiple businesses or maybe just getting started with one. But either way, these specific individuals use video. You guys all know I'm obsessed with video, especially in this day and age where we are coming from today at this time. We all know everybody and their mother is online, let alone they're watching video. So this is the opportunity for you all to come in, engage, and watch as I introduce to you guys all of these different guests who, in my honest opinion, are killing it, who are driving their business, scaling it, growing it, using this amazing medium. So without further ado, I want to bring on a special guest in which, in fact, before we even bring him on one more time, is that he was one of the first people I met when I moved back to Atlanta. If any of you guys know anything about my story, I used to live in New York. And when I had to move back to Atlanta, I was miserable because a lot of my friends were not here. And I remember meeting this amazing individual at a conference event, and through a mutual friend in which you guys have actually seen on this particular series before. And so without further ado, it is my extreme pleasure, guys, to bring to you Mr. John Lawson.
Woohoo!
Welcome, John.
What an intro.
I mean, I love to give y'all some like good juice and vibe, and you guys are my people. I gotta give you a great introduction.
Yeah, that was pretty good. Considering.
Oh
If you-
my goodness.
you're out in public, she's like, John.
No, that's you, John. We're not gonna even get started with that.
Let's go. Let's go.
Let's go. All right. So, for those who have no idea who you are, people know you as Colder Ice. This is John Colder Ice Lawson. John, let everyone know who you are and what you do.
Yeah, so basically, I started a business back in 2001, and it was an eBay business, and I did it because I was going bankrupt. So if somebody said to me, "Hey, you could sell some stuff on eBay," I was like, "Really? Can I?" And I tried it. Long story short, I ended up quitting my job, went full time doing the eBay thing. Was early in on the Amazon game, like real early, like in beta. They was starting FBA. They were looking at the large sellers on Amazon or eBay, and I was one of them. And they asked and invited us to a private, beta group, and did that. Around 2009, people started asking me, "Yo, how you doing this? Why don't you have a real job?" kind of thing. And I started teaching and training at that point, doing stages and speaking. Been around the world doing that. Now I'm stuck at home. And that's my story.
In which we'll get into that in just a moment as far as how you've actually taken advantage of this whole being stuck at home. Hey, we got Katrina here watching us live. Those of you guys, please let us
Katrina!
know where you're hailing in from. So if you guys don't know, Katrina was an amazing guest in the last series. So I was like, okay, we're going to bring on John, see how we can top that. So, John, based on your experience, right? Why should a business use, or why should anyone, or a business rather, use video in today's world?
I mean, it's very stupid simple if you just think about it. You know, like video has two things in it. It has moving pictures and audio. And those two things together are very, very powerful. I can give you a piece of paper and I can have written words on it, but that's going to be interpreted through your processing inside of your own mind about how I mean that or what I'm actually saying. You can watch on Facebook where people just go and flame on all of a sudden because they misinterpret what you're actually saying. So they're getting your words, but they're not getting the inflection and the tone of your vocal, right? So if you have the vocal, people can feel it. Now, if you add on top of that the moving image, that is just, like 10x over, probably even 100x over just spoken word. And spoken word is probably 1,000x over written word. So you just do the math. Video and live video really has, it's very powerful.
Most definitely. And someone actually, shout out to Curtis Brooks. He loved that you said stupid simple. And you're right, it is stupid simple. I think a lot of people tend to overcomplicate it. And especially like we carry this around us everywhere we go. To me, this is all you need to get started, let alone a webcam if you, for some reason, don't have a smartphone. But
Yeah.
that's all you need to get started. And with that said, John, like, what are your thoughts? Because I've been preaching this, but I'm not sure if it's sticking to people. So I'm going to leave the floor open to you on this. It is the fact that we're living right now during this pandemic that's going on right now. To me, you will never get this amount of tension ever again. Let's just say we have another episode of something happening. I feel, at least I want to hope, that we would be better prepared. But in my strongest opinion, this attention of people being stuck at home, forced at home, working at home, living at home, everything at home, and all they have is the internet as their way to escape. There's no better time. There's no more the excuse of not being able to get attention or eyeballs when it comes to video. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, even before now, you know, uh, the attention span on, I mean, I'm just thinking about like my niece. My niece, she's 15 years old. My daughter, she's 21 years old. Um, and you think about that generation, right? What's going on with them is a lot of them don't even know what's on TV. All they know is what's on their phone. I mean, if you watch them and interact with them, their heads down most of the times, and they're inside of this space of, an 8-inch screen. And I think what's happened for us, talking about older millennials and myself, I'm the MTV generation, and I remember that I'm MTV generation. So we spent a lot of time watching just videos online,
Right.
not online, on TV.
TV. TV.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, so the appeal has always been there. Having it mobile makes it very, very usable. And then now being stuck inside, there's only so much TV you're going to watch. After a while, you're going to get bored, and all of a sudden, something pops up in your feed, and so and so's live. And you flip over to it, you click on it, whatever, and suddenly you might get engaged. And before you know it, you've done 45 minutes because the content was good.
Right.
And I think that habit has been formulated. So as we go back into quote the new norm, I think we're going to take some of this with us, and the audience is there. You just got to get in front of them.
Thank you. Yes, I totally agree. And, I'm a millennial on the older side of it. So I had some of that MTV generation. I remember watching videos on MTV, BET, VH1, all of those things. So, yes, a lot has transpired. Yeah, for the past couple of generations. But, for you, John, since I would say, you've been in business for a long time. So, how are you, or how have you started using video in your business, and let alone how do you use it today?
Video or live video? Because those are two
Both.
different things.
Yeah, you're right. So with this, we're gonna talk. When I say video, that incorporates all forms and all
Okay.
types of video.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So I really dig pre-recorded video. I really do. And the reason why I like it is because of the editing, right? And the live video has its place too. Don't get me wrong, you know, but I think there's, if I had the two, I enjoy that one because I enjoy the editing part and making it pretty and doing transitions. I really enjoy that, right? I got into live video a lot because I was not a big live video person. Like prior to this lockdown or prior to this year, really,
Yep.
I was not a live video kind of guy.
Mm-hmm.
And that's because I like the pre-recorded video, right?
Yep.
And I don't know. I got into this time that we're in, literally talking about um, COVID before it was even called COVID.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it was, and I just didn't have any outlet. So instead of producing a full-fledged video, all I really wanted to do was just get my thoughts out. So I turned on the Facebook and threw it out there, and all of a sudden, people were watching, and I'm like, oh, okay, well, hey, you were able to say hi to people, and they were hi back inside of the chat, and that interaction was very valuable to me because it was very similar to being on stage. Not the same,
Sure.
but it was similar because you could get feedback on with very little lag time,
Yep.
you know. And so I think video, just in general, is a very powerful tool for business, for marketing, for personal branding, for demonstration. All of those things you just can't do with out video. I mean, it's so important to any aspect of your business, and I think a lot of people are afraid of it. But it's not. You don't have to be afraid. Don't be afraid, because if people don't like you, they'll turn you off. That's the worst thing that could happen. The worst thing that could happen is people turn you off. And when they turn you off, you don't even know. Yeah, you don't
Exactly.
care. Right. I don't know how many people are on here, but if somebody turned me off, I wouldn't know.
Right.
Uh,
I love it. No,
yeah.
and it's actually so okay, a couple things you covered. That's the reason why I love live video, is because of the instant engagement. I'm definitely a proponent of pre-recorded video, but to me, I always feel like there's a waiting game. You got to make sure it's fully optimized.
Yep.
So just say if you're using like a YouTube platform or something like that. And to me, I feel live video is a great place starting point, and then getting into the pre-recorded game. So I'm glad that I have you on where it's kind of switched. And in fact, guys, those of you guys who are watching, I've had, John, which we'll just segue into this, has a couple of shows underneath his belt. There's one called Watching Amazon, in which he started with his co-host Brent Leary, who's been a guest on this success series before. And then his most recent one, John is going live. So it's like the two different worlds of what John is involved in. And so before we tackle the most recent one,
Uh-huh.
I love how the you kind of are having this theme, in my opinion, of taking a topic, a niche, or whatever it is, and like being the official news person, let alone curator of information. So let's talk about watching Amazon. You're laughing over there. I don't know why you're laughing, but I'm being serious. Watching Amazon is about your thoughts and Brent Leary's thoughts about the whole Amazon world. You guys love that company, or whatever Amazon is doing. It's kind of like you guys go and report on that. So for someone who kind of is in a similar place, right? If they love a niche or they're passionate about something, like John, talk to us about how you got that show started, and kind of like what
Oh,
is
man.
your thoughts behind structuring it?
So it's gone through a lot of iterations, right? And Brent and I have been meeting for coffee and donuts, or not donuts. We'd actually meet for bagels, and we would do it like at least 2 times a month, right? We travel a lot. We're both, you know, uh, speaking and teaching different places. But every once in a while, we'd be in town together, and we'd be like, "Hey, you want to meet up for coffee at the Panera?" That's where we would go. We go to Panera Bread all the time,
Yep.
and literally, I mean, we probably, and when we got there, we would talk about, it was very steel sharpening steel. Hey, did you hear about this company being acquired? Have you heard about, Amazon versus eBay? And we would just talk about all these things in the tech area. There was a fascinating, definitely an overlap. Okay, there was an overlap in the Amazon area between Amazon and Apple. We would overlap, right? And I think one day we said we should do a podcast. You know, I was like, we should just do a podcast and just us talking. And Brent was like, yeah, but I don't want it to be just like everybody else's. So we ended up saying, okay, well, let's do a video podcast. He got this new video camera, and it was like, okay, let's try one. We threw it out there. It got a little traction, and then we got intentional about it, and we called it Watching Amazon, meaning when I say intentional, we said, well, we're going to cover just the Amazon niche. And Amazon is so broad, because Amazon does things in so many areas and categories. It's not just a shopping platform. It's also, it's in the cloud.
Yeah.
It's also making devices and all of that stuff. So we were like, that's broad enough, but still niche enough.
Sure.
And that's what we did. We created the show around watching Amazon. Uh, Fast forward to today, what we would do, we would go, we would meet. Then we took like a week off or a week or two off because we didn't know what we were going to do. We couldn't go and meet. And that was part of the show, right? That was part of the show. We would be here or we'd be there and we would make a video. And so we were like, well, we got to do this from home. So let's give it a try. The weird thing is, I wasn't as prepared as I was when I knew we were doing the shows at the
Panera.
at Panera. Yeah, I wasn't as prepared. So one week, this is probably like 3 weeks ago, just to show you how it goes. It's like 3 weeks ago, I was not prepared at all, and we got in the pre-room, because you can do the 5-10 minutes before you get. And he's like, "You got your stories ready?" Like you're saying, we were the news thing, right?
Right.
And I was like, you know what? I don't have any stories. I'm sure you got some. Let's go. And then it really just changed a little bit to where it became more organic. And I think it really harkened back to where we were in the very beginning when we wanted to do it versus what we ended up doing when we were planning to do it on the weekend. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
And so um, that's the beauty of getting out and just doing something. Just do it. I mean, you go to the airport. Well, you probably haven't been in a month or so, but you remember what one looks like, right? I mean, they only have runways in Atlanta, right? Atlanta, we don't even have crisscrossing runways. We have all runways going one like this way. Either you're going to go north or south. You can't fly off east or west. You really can't. The only way a plane can go east or west, it has to take off. For your show to get good, you have to put it in the air. You got to get it out there. And then you'll change. You'll be able to take all of the elements in and throw away the parts you don't. You don't have to be perfect. You're going to hate your voice. I don't know anybody. I mean, some of the best voices in radio and TV don't like their voice. You're not going to like your voice. There's a reason why you don't like your voice. There's a very good reason why. It's because when it's inside of you, you're hearing one part. You're just hearing the inner voice.
Right. Right.
When you get it played back, you're hearing the outer voice. That's why they sound different.
Mm-hmm.
Don't worry about that because how you sound is how you sound. Whether you like it or not, your kids, your husband, your wife, your family, your friends, all of them hear that thing you claim you hate. But none of them said, hey, that sounds like shit. Don't talk. Right? I mean, seriously.
Yeah.
So it's just we have to get used to the way we sound. And I have a problem with that myself. The way I sound, the way you look. People are like, I just don't look right. No, you look like you look. Every time you walk out the door, guess what? You look just like that. I know, I get it. You got to get used to that, because that's what everybody else already sees and hears. So trying to put on an air, just it doesn't really work. I mean, and the more natural you are, the more people gravitate towards you. This is the internet. This is not television. This is not television. We are not doing glam squads and things like that for the internet. You don't have to do that. I don't get people that want to do that. If you go right now and look at the trending videos, look at the trending videos right now on YouTube and tell me how many of those are made with glam squads. Just
Mm-hmm.
tell, right? I mean, so just turn on the camera. If you're interesting, not even if you're interesting, if your topic is just interesting,
Correct.
your opinion's always going to be unique. It's always going to be unique. So go for it.
Awesome. And thank you, John. And actually, you got some compliments. Someone said you have a great voice, just so you know.
I know. Thank you.
um, and what I want to also talk about here is because I've heard Brent's side, but when you guys started off watching Amazon, it started off on Facebook, if I'm not mistaken, and then you guys switched over to LinkedIn, and
He
were
did. Yes.
able to gain a lot of traction that way. So, why do you think that is? And talk to us about utilizing video on the LinkedIn platform.
Well, for one, only one of us has access to the LinkedIn platform video. So that's Brent.
You're talking about LinkedIn Live, or I'm talking
Yeah,
about the
LinkedIn video. I mean, LinkedIn Live. I'm sorry. Yes,
okay,
you're right.
yeah, okay,
Because anybody can put up a video,
yes,
right?
yes, yes,
But there is a limit to the length of video
yes. It's
on
only
there.
10 minutes.
Yeah, I mean that's here nor there. So what happened was he got really interested in it
Mm-hmm.
because Brent is always about you know uh, trying to push it to the next level. He always wants to see what's going on now and how that might. Um, and I'm being really nice. I'm talking. You notice how nice I'm being?
Yep.
I'm giving props and everything. Um, so he's always been like that. And so when LinkedIn started it, he started putting it both places, and he liked the feedback that he was getting from it. He's like, oh, I can put it out there, and like 700 people watch that, and we would be on YouTube, and we get maybe 60 people watching. So it was like, wow, 700. And I'm like, well, it's probably people that jumped in then jumped back out. But still, 700 people at that point were watching for whatever time. And if we take any number and you use that as a baseline, you can always tell whether you're growing or retrenching,
Mm-hmm.
right? So if my 700 next time goes to 750, guess what? We get in a bigger audience. We still, LinkedIn doesn't tell us how long they stay on, but they tell us that our audience is growing. Then you start getting more feedback or more people asking questions. So LinkedIn became good for us. And I think it was because, and good for Brent, really, just because, I mean, he was one of the first ones actually trying it.
Mm-hmm.
Once you do that, the algorithm's going to show it to more people.
Right.
And I think he's gotten good traction out of that. So the audience might not be that large. However, the people that are watching are the people he wants to be watching, the people he wants to engage with, the organizations he wants to work with,
Sure.
you know? So I think LinkedIn was good because the signal to noise ratio was less
Yes.
on LinkedIn than it is on Facebook.
Okay.
Yeah.
Love it. Love it. So we're gonna switch gears real quick before we get to your second most current show that you're doing. So let's talk about your global speaking career, right? So if you guys don't know about this amazing individual here, not Brent, sorry, John has been able to speak all over the world. I mean, when I first met him, I was just so amazed how he's like, yeah, I'm going to South Africa, I'm going to Australia, and being able to not only go and travel for fun, but also work at the same time. And that was something that I always saw as a dream of mine. Now, I have been able to travel and speak nationally in the United States, but I've never done the global route yet. So, with that said, John, and guys, John is being kind of humble, if you will, but he has a large presence online, like on Twitter. I mean, he's killing it with the social media game. Yes, he's part of the MTV generation, but he knows what he's doing online, okay?
Hey, hey,
And he video is just one of the things that, to me, in my honest opinion, is how like people should be utilizing it online, and John does that. And so initially I will go in my memory bank, John, to kind of remind you, like, especially when you were traveling a lot, you would either take selfie pictures or do like these little video clips, right? Of
right.
whoever influencer or someone you were meeting, let alone using video clips of testimonials or people you actually being on stage. So for someone who wants to start or let alone expand their speaking career, what are some pointers that you have on how you can utilize your online presence, personal brand, of course, using the medium of video?
Okay. Fantastic question.
Yes.
Um, I'm going to leave you with something real. I'm going to lead in, let's put it like that. Something really, really stupid simple. All right. It's not about who you speak in front of, it's about letting people know that you're speaking somewhere. All right. So what I'm saying is that a lot of us want like to speak in front of huge audience. Yes, I've done the thousand. I think the biggest audience I've had was like 2,000, right?
Mm,
I think. Yeah. I'm trying to think there's one bigger, but around 2,000, 2,500, right?
yeah.
But it's not necessarily that important the size of the audience. It's the size of the audience that knows you're speaking somewhere that's more important than the size of the audience that's in the room.
I love
That's
that.
the key.
Okay.
That's the key. So, when I do those, hey, yeah, hey, I'm here in Paris. Look at the Paris thing. I'm really not trying to, because I really don't care that I'm in Paris for me necessarily when I'm doing that. Like, because the videos that I take, I'm not even in it, right? I don't even get these selfies with you standing in front of the, you know, Eiffel Tower. I think that's stupid. I want to take a picture of the Eiffel Tower, but I don't want to take just any picture of the Eiffel Tower. I want to take the picture of the Eiffel Tower that reminds me of where I was standing and what I was seeing out there. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So when I turn the camera on myself and I put that into social media, that's total marketing. I'm not going to say it's all marketing, but most of that is marketing, because I've got to let the people that are decision makers for events know that John Lawson is that guy,
Mm.
you know? And you do it subtly. It's a very subtle thing, but you got to really think about who's your audience and how can you reach them and what content can you put out there that will sway their opinion. There are tens of thousands of speakers out there.
Mm-hmm.
And I recognize the little things that will sway their opinion when they're making a decision. Let's say they've narrowed it down to the 5 keynote guys that they want. What's going to make them choose John over Jerry, right? You know what? When he comes, John's not only going to come and be on stage, John is going to interview other people that are at the event, right? That adds value to them being at their event. John's going to put it on his social media. Yes, like you said, I've got 50,000 on Twitter, 25,000 on Instagram, tens of thousands here on Facebook. I leverage all of that.
Mm-hmm.
And that's part of what you want to do as a speaker. You want to be very, another time I'm going to use the word, intentional. I'm very intentional about things that everybody else, when they look at it, they think John's just being, oh, he's being funny, or he's just, I'm very, very calculated when it comes to my social. And guess what? I wrote the book on it.
Yes,
So
you did.
there you go. Right. I mean,
How about
literally.
how about go ahead and plug it in, John? Tell
Plug it. I might as well. I mean, look, this book ain't new, but I mean, kick ass social commerce. And I wrote the book literally because I felt that there was a lot of social gurus out there, but none of them had the same viewpoint as me. And I thought I had a unique viewpoint.
Sure.
I shopped the book. It got picked up by a publisher, and I went ahead and wrote it. You know, but it's helped me a lot to leverage stages as well. When you can say, "Hey, we've sold over 10,000 copies. I'm a best-selling author in this many categories." Those kind of things. Again, intentional. I really intentionally wrote it. When I wrote the book, I wrote it with the desire to get on more stages. Don't. Well, I'm not going to say that. I'm going to let it go. Go ahead.
Oh, I just love John. I just love John. And that's the thing. John will keep it real with you. So, yes, and I will even um uplift to what he says, or sorry, support to what he says as far as, being a speaker, because I've actually attended conferences with John. One specifically was my first time ever going to Inbound. That was what, 2017, John, or 18?
Really? Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yes,
It's about had to be
because I
17,
spoke
right?
last year at 2009. So I had to be
Right.
17, I think. 17 or
Yeah.
18, I don't remember.
No, and then I think it was a year before that.
Okay, okay.
So
So
you
2000.
know what? Was it when Michelle Obama
Yeah,
spoke, right?
Michelle Obama spoke. Yes.
So they had just left the White House.
Yes, correct.
Right.
And I
So
remember when
that
she
was
was dropping bomb, gems
yeah,
saying there's a book coming, and now becoming Michelle. So um but I remember, we were in the lounge. It was heavy. It was so crowded in this hotel lounge where we were at, and I was there with John and Brent, and guys, John is so popular, like especially among the Australians, because he had all of his friends there introducing us. But anyway, we did a little mini show, and like throughout that day, John or Brent was interviewing people and putting it up on their platforms. And
yep,
yeah, I feel that is definitely a great kind of case study or workflow. Those of you guys who are watching this, if you're a speaker or striving to be one, put on that creative thinking cap, because when you're at a conference anyway, what are you guys doing? You're taking pictures, you're taking little videos, but how can you do it so it will garner business for you? And as
yep,
John stated, leveraging his platforms, leverage your platforms, even if you're just starting and you have a small audience. But if you're constantly being consistent and popping up, and people see that, oh, okay, they turn around and provide like their viewpoint or experience, or add to the experience of where they are, you'll get on the stage. So
yep.
I thank you, John, for sharing that.
No problem, man. It's some good content, man. That's all people want is more content.
Yeah, you are so right. So before we get into that even more, let's go back to where we started. So as
Well,
I stated before, guys, John has two shows, and I feel like this most recent show, which we're gonna talk about, and John, don't hate me because I don't know the whole title, but
oh, that's cool.
it's watching Corona virus.
Watching the virus, just watching the virus.
Watching the virus. There you go.
Yes.
So here he is taking another major topic or theme, and I even said this to John, a couple of months ago. I was talking to him on the phone. I said, "Listen, John, I remember when you started going live and just posting all of these things about some virus that was
Way over
somewhere
there.
else, and I was just like, what is John doing? What is he doing?" And then I'm seeing him pop up consistently, time and time and time again. No one was paying him any mind.
Nope.
until I will say maybe February. I will say I started taking it a little bit more seriously. And then in March, when it pretty much fully started hitting stateside of the United States, I was in California speaking at a conference. And
Right.
then, like, the day I left is when California began to shut down, and I wasn't even sure if I was going to get home that
Wow.
night. So, and I remember I was like, dang, John was so right. Like, John, and the thing is, kudos to you, John, because I'm sure a lot of people were thinking the same thing I was thinking. And, you know, John has organically built like this Facebook group community. He's being consistent with it. So, with that said, John, first off, why did you decide to start doing this, like being this curator, this news reporter? Type of individual where you're consistently going live about it? And then how did you keep up with it? Because I feel like a lot of people, their biggest excuse with video is like, oh, no one's showing up, so I'm just going to forget it. Like after a week of trying to do this, and you kept at it. So talk to us about that.
All right. So just, I started organically. Um, I think I was at an event. Uh, and I think that was the first time I did a video. Yes, that's what it was. I was at an event and I said I'm going to try to do some either weekly or daily lives, right? I was testing out live. And that event was like in Austin, and I was talking about all these different things. And one of the topics, so I had my list of things I was going to talk about. And then one of the things was, the virus in China. I was going to talk about that because it was fascinating. It was absolutely fascinating. You think about when you learned about it, it was a fascinating thing when we watched, because by the time the rest of us kind of got aware of it, it was in Italy. That's when most of the Americans
True.
started becoming aware of it. It was like how it was spreading in Italy. I was fascinated by how it spread in China.
Mm.
So I was talking about this weird disease that's in China. And I was like, have you guys heard about it? And a couple of people, chimed in, and it was interesting. And then something else happened. So I just turned on the video. I was like, oh, wow, did you hear in China, they just shut everything down in China and blah, 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 And then that became like really fascinating. It was just fascinating. The thought that they had shut an entire city. Now it seems stupid, right? It seems so small because we got a whole country here, but the fact back then that they shut down one city and the people couldn't go anywhere, it was absolutely fascinating.
Mm-hmm.
And as it spread, right, I'm like, whoa, this thing is kind of getting out of hand, yo. And then it hit Iran. That was when I was like, wait a minute. Now, Iran, if you think, okay, you see how excited I get?
Yeah, go ahead.
Right? This is my thing. But I was fascinated with Iran because the people that were running the country were so ignorant. That's what was fascinating to me because like the health minister got it. I'm like, the health minister's got it. He's on stage with the vice president. I'm like, look at these fools. Oh my God. And I'm on TV. I'm like, man, these Iranian leadership, they're such crazy. Look at this. Here's the numbers, blah, blah, blah. Then it moved into Italy, and then it became kind of big. And I'm like, yo, it's coming here. I'm like, it's already here. Y'all know it's already here, right?
Yeah, I remember
Nobody
when
was
you were
believing
saying
me.
that. I was like, oh
I'm like, it's here. You got to be absolutely deaf, dumb, and blind to see that there's only 12 people here. I'm like, that's so stupid. You saw how, and that was the other thing, it was the boat. I'm like, you saw how fast it moved around on the boat.
my gosh. Mm-hmm.
If it moved that fast on the boat, then given any place that it would be, it could move that fast. So I was like, it's here. And then, of course, we had our outbreak. But in all of that, just like every day was something new, something interesting to talk about, and something to get prepared for. And I wanted to make sure people knew what I had already known that had happened in China.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, here's what happened in China. It's probably going to happen here.
Mm.
Never in my wildest dreams did I think that the stupidity of leadership in Iran would happen here. Now that took me by surprise.
Okay.
There you go.
So, okay, thank you for sharing that whole journey because yes, I was one of those people. Like I remember when John like I said, started talking about this random ass disease that was in China, and I'm like, why is he so obsessed with this? Because
I don't know.
homeboy was obsessed, and and I'm like, but it's like you knew this was something
It's
to
mathematics.
right, you just knew it, and so I thank you for being one of those people to take on like that mission, if you will. And my next question to you is, as you were going live about this initially and even just, after the fact, like as the whole pandemic became a pandemic and it was a worldwide emergency, like how did you do your live streams? Was it like more so you would state some facts and give your opinion, like how, or you just would go live and just say, hey, I just want to have a discussion? Did you do live Q&As? Like how did you go about doing the actual content?
Um, so a lot of the content I would just get from research,
Okay.
right?
Mm-hmm.
I would watch other YouTubers that were talking about it, some doctors, because this is back before we even had the daily, press conferences. So that's where I would get a lot of my information from, was just doing my own private research. Uh, I knew all the charts and all that. And then I was like, well, what would be interesting to us here as Americans, right? And so that's how I would formulate the topics. Yeah, I would always keep it to just three topics,
Okay.
right? Because I was trying to keep it at like 15 minutes.
Okay.
So I'd be like three topics, quick hit, in and out. Of course, then as things started unfolding here locally or in the country,
Mm-hmm.
then it was more of about comparing where we are to where they were, right?
Yes.
So once I could do that, I could. It almost felt like, oh, you are sightseeing. You could see into the future, and I really wasn't. I could just go to the back end of here's where China was at this point, and here's what happened. Here's where we're going to be. And that pretty much solidified that. Then, of course, um, it got like you said, I was sort of the news, right? Because there was no news.
Right.
And then when the media started picking it up and everything on CNN turned into the virus, the virus, the virus, then I got a little bit more about opinion, opinion, opinion.
Okay.
Here's my opinion. Here's my opinion. Here's my opinion. Fast forward to today, and it got very divisive and political. And I never was political about it.
Right.
I didn't want to be political. And once it became that, I kind of went silent
Right.
because there's no need for news. And my opinion is just my opinion now. It's not a foresight opinion. We're all living it together. So my opinion on that was so I could have shifted into something a little bit different. And by the time I started thinking about it, was about 2 weeks ago when the last episode I actually did was a week before Georgia. No, it was the Sunday before they announced that Georgia was going to reopen. And I said on the podcast, you guys are not going to like what I'm going to say, but I think it's time for us to reopen. And the reason why I said that is because I felt like America's more aware of where we are, and hopefully they would take more precaution. I was wrong, but that was was my opinion,
Mm-hmm.
you know. And every once in a while, I mean, like definitely, I've been itching to get back out there. So probably this week or next week, I'll do another video with the CV Hangout.
Okay.
Um, but I got a project that I'm really working on tight, and I'm really just focused in on that right now. And so I'm not as focused in on you know already out there, and everybody's posting about it. It's not that unique anymore.
I thank you for sharing that, and I can understand your position, but I will tell you this, like this is something that they're writing history books about, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And you doing what you did and putting in the work, I feel is if the history books could be like completely digital and like they could track, okay, who were the first people to start talking about this and da 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 da. Like they should include what you put together initially. That's just my opinion. It's not because you're
Look,
a friend or anything like that.
no,
That's for anybody.
that is good confirmation.
Yeah. And it's like, like I said, initially, all of us probably were like, what is John doing? Why is this so important? But,
Whatever.
and then,
Whatever.
and then I remember
I was in the back room talking about John crazy. John, that boy done went crazy. I know it.
and when you started getting the mask, like the real legit ones, and I was like, dang, John was so right. Because I remember I looked it up. I was like, it's sold out. I can't even buy them. But John
Right,
got one.
right. By the time I put my mask on, I had bought it in February. When I put it on, everybody's like, "Where you get the mask? Where you get that mask?" I
Right.
was like, "Oh, I got that months ago."
But I'm just saying, for those who are watching this, right? Like, this is a great kind of case study, especially when it comes to something
It
that
is.
is trending or is the current pop culture of where you are today. Like, if you were to put on the hat of, and I love how John, you walked us through this whole process. The initial hat was being a researcher and simultaneously being a reporter. So it's like, okay, I did this research. This is the
And I
data
was
that I
passionate.
found.
Don't look. Remember, I was passionate.
Yes.
This was a passion project,
Right, right, right. So
right?
go ahead, go ahead.
No, I'm just saying. It's like I think sometimes we try to make up something. It's like you've been doing this forever. Yes, you've got a name and a title around it, but you've always been passionate about video,
Yes.
and I just think if people live in that thing that they're passionate about, at some point their passion will find a path for them. And that's what people mostly don't do. The problem with most people is they got way too much shiny object syndrome, and by the time it becomes a shiny object, it's already over. You can't be you're not even at the early part by that time normally. It's like it's already over. And that's why I say find what you're passionate about. If it's held your attention for this many years, then it's going to be around for that many years. But if you just say, "Oh, hey," because I know so many people that decided they were going to be social media experts back in 2000, let's say 12,
Right.
you
Yeah.
know, but those people that decided they were going to be social media expert used to be SEO experts, and before that they were links experts. I can get you extra links. They just jump from thing to thing to thing. And I'm like, you can't be an expert jumping from thing to thing to thing. It just, that doesn't work. Anyway, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, 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 no need to apologize. And no, you're exactly right. And we'll get into that in a second. But for those who I'm saying, John chimed in and talked about, something that is going to be around. So like social media, for me it was video. I'll never forget when live video first was introduced. Everybody and their mother was this live video expert. Do you see them today?
No.
Of them have dropped out, if not more. And I'm like, I already knew they weren't in it for the long run. They were just trying to make a quick buck type of thing. So it's interesting, yes, to actually tackle it from that perspective, the process and the journey that John is talking about, but also for the recent trending things or what's going on in pop culture or just culture period, of taking the same process, guys, and applying it to whatever business or industry that you're in. You could do the same thing.
Yeah.
Like any business right now, let's just say, for instance, I don't know if you're a financial advisor, like you could, yes, right now a lot of things have changed as it has because of this virus, but at the same time you could do the same thing where you start off with the research, whatever it is you were doing before, what are the changes, educating people along the way, as long as you're educating. And that's what John was doing. John is an amazing individual and has personality. So not only was he educating, but he was entertaining as well, which is great. You want to do that edutainment, as they say. But you want to educate people as much as you can. And I feel that this is the best way to do it, let alone going live. The fact that I'm interviewing John. I mean, there's so
Yeah.
many different things that you can do to really make it work for you and to capture all of the eyeballs that are happening right now who are tuning in either on this live, watching the replay, or tuning into the pre-recorded videos that John was talking about. Because yeah, John, at one point you hired who was it? Troy. You started doing like a little mini series, personal branding series for yourself as well, right?
Yeah, I
Or
mean, and the funny thing is I did it last year and it's just really popping off now, you know. But I'm going to give you a couple things, guys, because I did this beforehand just because I wanted to talk about
sure.
the trending thing and what you can do, whatever topic it is. All right. First, first best thing I really love is YouTube, right? And that's probably because that's the way I ingest things. I can take a video, put it on double speed, or extract the audio and just find the things that I need in it. I like YouTube for that. But if you go out there and watch like the top 25 videos on any subject, you become the expert over 98% of the people. Period. That you could literally do that. That's stupid simple. Google Trends, I use that. If I want to talk about something that's happening right now, don't make something happen. You can just be in it. It's like today, some firemen were caught in an explosion. You know, that's trending. What's his name? Ryan Seacrest eye is trending. You know, you could talk about that, and trust me, if it's trending, hundreds of thousands of people are searching for it. So it's interesting to hundreds of thousands of people. It'll probably be interesting to your audience, right? So you can do that. Twitter has a trending button. Between those three, YouTube, Google, and Twitter, you got all the fodder you need to get people interested in your topic, you know, or not even get people interested. That's a good thing. It's not about convincing. That was the hard thing with the virus, right? Or that was the challenge for me with the virus. I enjoyed the challenge, right? It was about trying to convince people that this is going to affect us in America. That was my challenge. That was my passion. I was like, people, you need to listen. PayPal. You know, I wanted to be that guy, right? Because I knew if I get to that point, then the very nature of being controversial makes people turn it on, right? So like, oh, here come the crazy guy again. I wanted to be that guy. I knew if I could do that and people would talk about it, whether you're talking about me positively or you were talking about it negatively, guess what? You're talking about it. And that grows the appeal. So I would see nobody would want to watch it live, but I cut that damn thing off, man. 200, 300, 400 people watching it later on, right? But there, you know, so you don't always have to be in line with what everybody's thinking. You can also kind of be just to the left or just to the right of where people are thinking. You can move them forward or maybe bring them back a little, you know? But if you're doing exactly what Susie did on her video, that becomes a little boring. You want to add your opinion to it. Don't just copy. You want to take that, be inspired, and throw something out that's unique to you. That's the most important, I think, part of getting people engaged. Because if they can watch anybody else's, I'm not even gonna look. If it wasn't for Gary Vaynerchuk's delivery, nothing he says is unique. Nothing. I've never heard Gary and be like, oh wow, I've never heard that before. Never. Have you?
No. And he's
No.
been saying the same thing over and over again for the
Over,
past
you know, because we've been
six,
watching him
7
for
years.
years.
Yeah.
Right? I've been watching that dude since he was selling wine in his daddy's shop,
Right.
you know. So I mean, I've heard everything pretty much. I mean, you know, but because the basics of business in general are pretty basic,
Yeah.
you know. There, I mean, you can go and read, you know, Think and Grow Rich. Everybody talks about it, but that thing was written in the 1930s. Why is it still relevant today? Because business is universal.
Yep.
So the thought that you're going to bring up something new, the only new thing is the way you see it. And that's what you have to give to people.
I love it. Now, John, you are frozen, but that's okay.
Oh,
What we're
that's
gonna
okay.
do, but the sound was coming through, so I am going to call you back, but we'll still go live. That's the great thing, guys, about having a live video. So I am going
Hold on,
to.
hold on, hold on.
Oh,
Let me just make sure
okay. Are you moving? Is it?
it's not moving.
No, it's not moving. Okay, so I will call you right back.
Okay.
All right, guys. So as I am calling John back, I hope you guys are loving what we are sharing and what we're covering thus far. In the meantime, in between time, let me know, what are your thoughts thus far? What do you think about what we've covered? Whether it is to start your own show, or let alone how can you leverage your experience being at a conference to be a speaker? All right. So John shared some really great stuff with that. And we're about to bring him back in. So, with that said, guys, just kind of as a brief kind of recap here, what John is saying is, you know, really tap into something that you're passionate about, let alone that you're serious about. And I think we have him back here. Yes, we got him back.
I'm going
Welcome
to
back,
shit.
John.
I pushed the wrong button.
It's okay. No, but what you share were some golden nuggets. And even Gary himself will call himself out and saying, guys, this isn't new.
No.
This isn't new. Like, I've been saying this for so long. The thing is, the reason why I keep saying it is because you guys will waste an entire hour just to see me talk and then go back at home and not implement or do anything what I say. So you still come back for more and to hear the same thing over and over again.
I know what's happening. My computer is like full. That's what's happening. So if I
Oh.
freeze up, I'm deleting something real quick.
Okay, no problem. No
So
problem.
don't freak out.
I'm not
But
freaking
I
out.
bet
Like I said, I've done this before, and it's just we're doing a live show. This is all what goes into a live show, right? Yeah.
yeah, it's like I mean, I did this large video
Okay.
and I'm just gonna throw away the raw parts.
See, guys, he's doing video right now. Like he said, he loves to edit them. So while you're doing that, John, talk to us about the show, or the project you started last year of doing some personal branding video, and how it's taking off this year.
Okay, so um the deal was I did two things. I did a documentary. So I finally, I was like, people were so interested in me speaking and how I do that and run around the country. So I was like, you know what, Troy, why don't you do a documentary and fly out with me? So he came out, followed me. He said it took a week. He just told me that the other day. I was like, were we together for a whole week? Wow. And I think I had 3 speaking gigs to do. So I knew it was a good compacted amount of time to get some good video out. So we did this and we turned it into a 30-minute documentary. And then I came back right from that trip
Okay.
and I hired another documentary guys to do a video series with me.
Okay.
And I think we ended up with 18 episodes, and I was going to turn that into a podcast.
Okay.
And it's actually in the middle of running right now,
All right.
but I never put it out there. It's just out there, out there. I didn't market it. So now I'm taking it all back and I'm rebranding and going to put it back out there. Because here's the weird thing, it's like this is what speaking was like before Corona. You know what I mean? It's like it's a documentary of people sitting in large spaces listening to one speaker, and that I don't know how long that's going to take for that to come back. You know, so I think right now is a good time to relaunch that.
Mm-hmm.
And then talk about how I took that and pivoted, and now you're seeing it. So we'll see. That's cool. And I already have, like you said, I already have an audience, but also I want to differentiate, or I did when I did this, I want to differentiate myself from every other speaker. How many other speakers has a documentary?
Not too many. If anything, a speaker reel is bare minimum, and even not
Right.
everybody has that either. Yeah.
Right. So that's what I was going to do. It's like, here's my speaker reel. Also, here's my documentary of life as a speaker. Oh, we want that guy, So that was, but shit, nobody's hiring now. So
I know. But no, no, no. So what about virtual events? A lot of people have pivoted to
yeah,
doing that.
yeah.
What are your thoughts on that?
Oh, okay. Wake me up. You know, we'll see.
Okay.
It's not the same,
You're right.
and the payment's not the same,
Oh, it can't be. No.
right? And the deal is, here's the really, you want to be truthful.
Yeah.
Truth is that I could probably get in front of anybody's audience online if I want to. You know what I'm saying? So if I want the audience from HubSpot, I can generate that through paid advertisements and things like that. It's just, that's not that hard to do anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Or it never was all that hard. Getting an audience online, it's not necessarily, I mean, if you pay for it, let's put it like that. It's hard to get it free,
Yeah.
But if you got money, you can get in front of pretty much any audience you want.
Yep.
Now, can you keep their attention? Can you do that? All those parts, that's the harder part. But just getting in front of an audience is not that hard. And then I've got enough, uh, understanding of how to do it that I'm down for doing it with anyone. I just I haven't I it's anyway. The speaking game is a very interesting game. It's a
Okay.
very interesting game.
You are very right. You are very right.
It's an interesting game.
So with that said, we're at the top of the hour and we covered a whole bunch of stuff here. And John, I want to ask you this last question. Someone who's watched us all the way through from the beginning to end. Thank you for those of you guys who have done that.
Thank you. Wow.
But but some people are still afraid. Some people are still scared. What if someone does
tell me, what are they scared of?
Yeah, first of all, yeah, anybody who's still afraid and you're watching this right now, let us know in the comments why you're afraid and don't be bashful about it. It's okay.
Yeah, just give me the reason. I will answer to your reason.
Right.
Trust me.
Okay. But for someone who's just getting started with video, John, or someone who tried it before and has failed and they're looking to get back on, what are like 2 or 3 tips that you can share with someone?
All right. If you're just getting started, all you need, and I know you talk about this, all you need is your camera and a good light. Those 2 things. All right. Nobody wants to look at a dark, room or a person that's not pretty decently lighted. Right now, this is funny, Monique, is that all I've got is my room lighting and I've got the windows open, and that's it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And the funny thing is, I've got a good light here, and I didn't turn it on. So I had it on. Watch this. When we first got on the first time, see, and I didn't turn it on, and I didn't want to turn it on in the middle of it because then it would mess up, right? So now you see how I would look if I had my lighting on. It brightens up my face a little bit, and I'm all moist. That's because normally I turn on my fan and I forgot to turn that on. But anyway, so I turned it back off. So those are the 2 things you need. All right. The next thing you need is you need to have. Some people are not good at improvising.
Yeah.
All right. I'm really good at improvising. Literally, I don't have to prepare. I just start running my mouth. I'm good at that. I know that's kind of a superhero thing that I've got. Some people don't have that. But what you don't want to do is you don't want to read. All right. So what you do is you prepare your stuff, learn your stuff, and then if you got to use cards, use cards. Because cards, you're not going to read the whole card. You're just going to use the card just to give you the cues to keep you on topic and to make sure that you're covering the things that you want to cover. Right. All right. So you can just use, your phone and make some notes. When I say cards, I don't mean actual cards. I'm not Fred Flintstone. Okay. But so use something to cue you so that you are speaking intelligently and you make sure you take them on the journey. The last thing I think you need to have is you need to have some sort of story.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Think about how you can teach in story. Teach in story. And I'm trying to think of a good story. I don't have to give you a good story. But if you just realize that we sit around the campfire and they tell what? Stories. Um, the most important part of the old school tribes were the storytellers.
Yeah.
You know, we are as humans naturally wired to learn from stories. Jesus told parables. Those are
Right.
stories. If you learn to teach in story, you first are going to have your own story, right? You're going to make that up and it's going to make it unique. And secondly, people are going to remember the story, which will take them to the lesson.
Right.
So I think those are some good things. If you can tell a good story, have your card so that you make sure you're staying on point and have good camera or just a phone and some good lighting. You're in it. Go for it.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Thank you. No, those were great.
Were they good? I made
Yes, they
those
were
up.
great. And unfortunately, you're frozen again, but that's okay.
That's good. I don't know. I'm so luck.
But
I
actually,
like this look.
I like that look. Actually,
Yeah,
I was like,
it's
I
like
like that look.
yeah, it's like pious. It's like a very humble look. I never
Yes.
get that look.
Oh, y'all know, like, John is amazing to hang out, guys. If you ever have the opportunity or you spot him, please, when we get back to normal life, if we're able to get back to conferences, and you see him, be sure to hang out with him and buy him a drink because he's an amazing person to hang out with. Um, but with that said, guys, this wraps up day one. We have the amazing John Colder Ice Lawson. And fact, John is someone that I've known for a very, very long time. Consider him a dear friend, especially in the business world. And John, thank you so much for being here. Those of you guys that are here, hopefully you got some great nuggets. Just keeping it stupid simple, I think is what stupidly simple is what John kept saying. Keep things stupidly simple. Just use your phone, your webcam, um, some good lighting. To me, I would add in there audio because to me, audio makes or breaks video. If you have crappy audio, no one is going to watch your video whatsoever. And also just how he has gone about and how you can go about getting started with a speaking career. Okay. And John knows I've been pushing him, so I can't wait, to learn from him tremendously about growing my personal speaking career.
June, first week of June. It's
All
coming.
right, globally. So let's hold him accountable, guys. He said it live here on Facebook, and we're also simulcast to YouTube, so you guys have seen it all over the globe. First week of June 2020. So, with that said, John, do you have any other last words? And before we do that, day 2 kicks off tomorrow at 5 p.m. Eastern with an amazing individual, and you guys will learn more about her. And I can't wait to have her on board for tomorrow.
Who?
Um, April Franks.
Wow.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yep.
All
Yep.
right.
Yep.
No, you know what? Thanks so much. This was absolutely fun. I can't believe we did an hour. That was quick, fast, and easy.
Yes.
Thank you, Monique.
You are very, very welcome, and I can't wait to hang out with you and Brent. I'm gonna come and crash one of your watching Amazon episodes coming up.
6 feet. 6 feet.
I know, right? All right, guys. Thank you so much, and we'll see you tomorrow at 5 p.m. Eastern. Take care.